This is Little Caesar's Pizza. How can I help you?
On July 8th, 2003, something really unusual happened at a Little Caesars in San Jose, California. A little girl called the cashier, her voice shaky and holding back tears as she spelled out her address letter by letter.
I'm sorry? Who is this?
Little did they know, she had been kidnapped, and the person who took her was making her call. She hadn't been able to contact anyone else during her days in captivity. Kidnapped, hurt, and kept tied up, 9-year-old Jeanette Tamayo was already gone when the police arrived.
A young girl was abducted from her home after school.
Later, the police got security camera footage from nearby, but it was too blurry to be useful.
Police have no leads in the disappearance of 9-year-old Jeanette Tamayo.
Days passed with no progress in the case, and no statewide Amber Alert was issued. Jeanette decided she had to do something herself. In San Jose, California, little Jeanette Tamayo got off her school bus and headed home. When she got there, she noticed the screen door was slightly open. She thought maybe her mom came home early, but things were not right. Her bedroom window was smashed, glass everywhere. Panicking, she went to call her mom, but the phone cable was cut. Before she could figure things out, someone knocked on the door. Scared, she opened it, and it was a stranger.
And when he was asking me questions, he was kind of peeking inside, trying to see who was in there. And that started making me feel really uncomfortable, and I started slowly closing the sliding door. I got scared because I felt a really bad vibe from him. And he put his hand in the way, slid it open, grabbed me, and took me to my brother's room. He threw me on the bed and took off my pants.
To respect Jeanette, we won't describe the assault. After that, the attacker handcuffed and tied her up, then took her to his car in the garage. He tried to open the garage door but couldn't lift it much before he saw another car pulling up. From the back seat, Jeanette recognized her mother's car.
My brother crawled under the garage. When it opened a few inches, the first thing I told him was to run.
Her attacker was already doing it. He left the car and walked towards Paul. Paul, just 15 years old, knew he didn't have much of a chance, but he decided to fight. He grabbed a screwdriver from the counter and ran at the man. The man quickly disarmed him and started hitting him in the face. Jeanette, restrained by handcuffs and a rope around her leg, could only watch as the man dragged her brother inside. Inside, they faced Rosalia, Jeanette's mother. She tried to fight the man and successfully separated him from her son. Then Paul tried to help with a frying pan, but the man disarmed him again and used the pan against Rosalia until she fell.
I remember hearing my mom screaming, and it went quiet. I couldn't hear much after that. And I see the man rush back into the garage and into the car. And when I seen blood on his face, I was like, "Did you kill them?" And he just started laughing, and I just started to cry. I was like, I didn't know if he had killed them. I didn't know, if they were there anymore, if he had killed them. And I was just thinking with the blood on his face that they were gone. My family was gone.
Jeanette's kidnapper drove recklessly, cutting through her neighbor's bushes. Despite her restraints, she turned around to see her house one last time before they turned the corner. She felt relief when she saw Rosalia running behind the car, wounded but alive. Paul limped towards bystanders for help. After the car turned the corner, Jeanette screamed at passing drivers, trying to get their attention. Her attacker grabbed the screwdriver and attacked her. After being hit twice, she managed to move out of his reach.
I just remember sliding down, laying there and looking up at the ceiling of the car and just thinking to myself, I'm not gonna make it. I'm gonna die.
Back at the house, the police arrived. Rosalia, refusing to get into the ambulance, explained everything to the detective and officers. Her condition worsened, and in a panicked state, they had to force her onto a stretcher. They were taken to the nearest hospital.
To a mother, I don't care what happened to you, you thinking and your kids, but I don't can do anything. I don't can do anything. I don't protect my kids.
With their only witnesses gone, the police had little information. They knew Jeanette was kidnapped, the house was broken into, phone cords were cut, and they were attacked. Other than that, all they had was the crime scene.
One of the first things that I did notice in the garage was a lot of blood. I knew at that point this was a very violent crime. You start thinking, are we going to bring her home alive?
Detective Heather Randall was on the case. At first, she thought the blood in the kitchen and garage might be Jeanette's. While her team gathered samples and checked the scene, she brought in bloodhounds to search. Unfortunately, they didn't find much since neither Jeanette nor her attacker were hurt initially. During this, Randall spotted a neighbor's security camera. Reviewing the footage, they pieced together a timeline. 30 minutes before Jeanette arrived, the attacker broke into her house, waited, and then assaulted her in the bedroom. Later, they moved to the garage. Meanwhile, Paul and Rosalia arrived, and in the recording's final moments, you can hear them screaming for help. Randall focused on a key moment when the attacker's car was on camera.
It's heartbreaking. You have the evidence right there. It's so close, and yet you need just a little bit clearer video.
In California, for an Amber Alert, you need a name, license plate, or phone number tied to the suspect. Before relying on Paul and Rosalia, Randall alerted the media, hoping the public would help spread the word. They used helicopters with loudspeakers, held press conferences.
It puts 1,000 more sets of eyes out on the street, and we knew it was extremely important to push the information out to the public, give them a picture of Jeanette, make sure that flyers were flooded throughout the city.
Doing everything to make Jeanette's name known in San Jose. Meanwhile, Jeanette kept mental notes, hoping to find her way home. The car eventually stopped at a White House, and the man took her inside, upstairs, and into a small locked room. There, he assaulted her, handcuffing her to the shower after each attack.
I started to break down and cry, and that was my only safe place was the shower, because every time he left me in the shower was when he didn't touch me, he wouldn't hurt me, or he wouldn't rape me.
The next morning after the kidnapping, the Tamayo family gathered around Rosalia in San Jose. Some family members were asked by the police to speak to the public.
In the morning, he was watching the news again. My cousin was talking to me through the news. She was saying, "Jeanette, if you can hear us, just know that. Be strong, girl. We're looking for you." She was like, "Just don't give up." That gave me hope. That gave me the strength. Either I'm going to fight to get out of here or die trying.
On her second day of being kidnapped, Jeanette started planning what to do about her captor.
Because my life was at risk, I said to myself, I have to have a conversation with him so he gains my trust.
The kidnapper looked at Jeanette with a doubtful expression, stood up, and for the first time, smiled at her. She felt intense disgust and wished she could retaliate, but she decided to go with her instincts. Jeanette smiled back, trying to appear innocent, and asked for a glass of water. He handcuffed her, left her alone in the room for the first time, and went downstairs to get the water. Alone, Jeanette nervously played with the handcuffs, realizing they were mechanical and didn't need a key.
I remember feeling with my fingers a little button and like a latch. I realized that if I moved the latch one way and pressed that button, the handcuffs would release.
Freed, she had only a minute to think of a plan. She grabbed the watch the man left on the nightstand, took a clay turtle from the toys in the room, and picked up her underwear. She remembered that CSI used victims' underwear in sexual assault cases and wanted him to be punished. However, her investigation was cut short when she heard the heavy footsteps of her kidnapper coming up the stairs.
My brother and I would always watch CSI, Law and Order, and the detectives on the shows would always look for clues.
Quickly, she snatched the watch the man left on the nightstand. Then she hurried to the other side of the room where the man had put some toys for her to play with. She took a small clay turtle from the toys, and finally, she passed by the bathroom to grab her underwear. She remembered that the CSI cast often used the victim's underwear in sexual assault cases, and she wanted him to be punished for what he did to her. But soon enough, her investigation was cut short as she started hearing the heavy footsteps of her kidnapper walking up the stairs.
I jumped back on the bed, put the handcuffs on, and once he walked through the door, he just looked at me, and in my mind I was hoping, please don't touch me, because I had things on me that I was afraid that he might find.
On the third day, Jeanette's family was devastated by the lack of progress the case had made. Despite Randall's incredible efforts, the police still had nothing on hand that could lead to her location. When the police tried to explain to Rosalia that beyond the 48-hour mark, most kidnapped children are never found, she refused to listen.
I feel very, very, very sad because you're scared. My daughter, she's a little kid. She has only 10 years. I asked the police what happened with my daughter. When my daughter came by, say, maybe never. I'm screaming a lot. My daughter I don't see for 3 days. I don't feel comfortable because I don't protect her. I don't protect her, I don't feel good.
At this moment, Jeanette felt completely numb from her kidnapper's attack. Her only instinct was to stay strong and stick to her plan. She had to keep manipulating him. It was her only chance to survive.
My befriending was working. He asked me, "Are you hungry?" And I looked at him and I said, "Yeah." He gave me his cell phone. He had a cell phone with him. And he made me call for pizza. He gave me the phone number of the cell phone that he had. And I gave it to the man. The man on the other side of the phone said, "Can I get your address?" He told me the address.
Just like she did with the car 2 days ago, she memorized everything. If she ever escaped, she wanted to ensure she could take him down later. Eventually, someone rang the doorbell and her kidnapper left the room for a minute. When he returned, he had a smile on his face. He put a pizza on the floor, and on top of the box, there was a missing person flyer with her face on it. He then said he would get rid of her tonight before leaving the room. Once he closed the door, she tossed away the pizza and gathered all the evidence she could. She stuffed it inside the pizza box and hid it under the bed. When he returned, he grabbed a pillow and started smothering her with it. Gasping for air, she tried to push her face against the side, but the man was too strong. As the lack of oxygen took its toll, she felt a rush of adrenaline and, in one final push, successfully slid her face to the side to take one last breath.
As soon as 5 seconds later, after I got some air, he pulled the pillow off and he asked me, "Do you want to take a shower?"
After she came out of the shower, she quickly dressed and made sure the evidence she had gathered earlier was still in her pockets. She then heard someone knocking loudly at the door downstairs. She wanted to scream, but her kidnapper immediately jumped on her and covered her mouth with his hands. Afraid that he would try to kill her again, she calmed down and waited for the person at the door to leave.
We were sitting in the room for a while, and afterwards, when he heard that it was all quiet, that's when he took me downstairs into the garage. It was all dark.
He made her get into his car again, put handcuffs on her, and began driving. The journey was very long, and Jeanette couldn't stop crying and screaming. In the middle of it, she took a moment to try to calm herself and understand what had happened to her.
I remember just crying to myself and just saying, I did the best I could. I was just preparing myself for my own death.
However, she still hadn't completely given up. As they drove, she tried hard to remember each turn, but they kept going for more than 30 minutes, making it even tougher than before. Eventually, the car reached a well-lit parking lot near the highway, next to a liquor store with neon lights.
The car had stopped, and as soon as he stopped the car, he grabbed me by my hair, and I looked around, and I was like, "Where are we?" And he was like, "I'm letting you go." And when he grabbed me by the back of my head, by my hair, he pulled me towards him. He was like, "If you ever tell anybody what I did, or who I am, or anything about me, I will come back for you, and I will kill your family, and I will kill you too."
After the person who took her went away, she quickly ran to the liquor store. It was hard to believe she actually managed to do it. Somehow, she made the person trust her. All these thoughts and feelings filled her head. Suddenly, she found herself standing in front of the person at the cash register.
I was just all kinds of emotions in one, and I remember the gentleman that was behind the counter looking at me and asking me, "Are you okay?" And then he said, "You're the little girl from TV."
The guy at the counter acted quickly. He gave her the phone, and when he saw she was upset, he took it back and called 911 for her.
He said, "Let me use the phone." I said, "Okay, here's the phone." When she started dialing the phone, she was panicking, scared. She didn't know how to dial the number.
When the San Jose police heard that Jeanette was found in East Palo Alto, they quickly went to her. Detective Randall was really happy to see the little girl in person at last. However, she also knew they had to move fast if they wanted to catch the person responsible.
I walked up to her and I said, "Hello, Jeanette. My name's Heather, and I'm here to help you." And before I really said anything else, she let me know that she had some evidence in her pocket.
She took things out of her pockets, like toys, her underwear, and the kidnapper's watch. Randall was surprised by how smart the little girl was, so he asked if she had more things to help catch the kidnapper. Jeanette wanted a paper and drew the house, parts of the address, the kidnapper's phone number, and everything she could remember. Seeing how much she knew, Randall asked her an important question.
I asked her, "Do you think you can find his house?" She said, "I think I can." And she said that she could direct us by saying right or left, right or left.
The police were going back to San Jose to find the man's house. Meanwhile, Another officer called all the nearby pizza places to check if they had an address for the phone number. Before they realized it, they were getting closer to the location, and Jeanette was really excited in the back of the police car. A short while after that, Randall got a message from the pizza place saying they had the correct address.
I felt brave. I think that's why I stood up in the back of the car and started yelling and saying that.
So she asked a special team with dogs to go to the house.
Our SWAT team then put a plan in place to go and take him into custody. They had a layout of the home from Jeanette, and they went in and were able to determine that he was hiding up in the attic.
David Montiel Cruz tried to run away from the police and scared them inside the house. As a result, they let the dogs go after him. He got hurt on his arms and was taken out of the house. Meanwhile, Heather discovered a pizza box with evidence under the bed. After they caught the person, they called Rosalia. But Jeanette, who had been stabbed, needed to go to the emergency room right away. Rosalia and Paul went with them and finally met Jeanette again after she got better. Jeanette had a tough time in the past few years. She struggled with her own pain and didn't go out of her house because she was really scared of men and the outside world. This went on for a while. When she turned 15 after getting therapy for 6 years, something changed. She decided to confront her fear and take action. 12 years later, TV producers brought her back together with Heather Randall, the detective who...
I remember them taking me to the hospital, running tests on me. I remember opening the door and seeing my mom. And her face was so bad. Like, she didn't even look like my mom.
I think she touched my mom's face. She said, "You're hurt." You know, she was so brave. She didn't care about herself. She was worried about us.
You're everything to me, you and Paul were.
Yeah. Very happy because I know my dad. For example, it's when she born, second time for me.
with the help of a smart 9-year-old, stopped David Montiel Cruz and got him a life sentence. Despite a tough childhood because of her past struggles, she didn't let it control her life as a grown-up. Now she's choosing to pursue a career in law enforcement, inspired by Heather. She aims to become a detective and support her community, just like Heather did for her. Additionally, she wants to speak up for missing people and victims of violence. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to our channel for more.